Hello.
What? Yeah?
Well, AJ's not saying anything. So, hello. Welcome to Sci-Fi Vision Fandom Access for Tuesday, June 25th. So, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
We have quite a lot of stuff tonight.
Yes, we do.
So we'll probably do, I assume, Doctor Who first, but we have, I already even tweeted it. We have, whoops, there went the tweet. Doctor Who, Orphan Black, Echoes, Dark Matter, Interview with the Vampire, House of the Dragon, and Lazarus. I gotta ask, what's Team Black? Is that to do with House of the Dragon, and that's why I don't know what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing I know about House of the Dragon is Matt Smith. That's the extent of my knowledge. So,
well, he's on Team Black.
Okay, good.
Team Black and Team Green, but I think pretty much everyone is Team Black.
Okay, well, if it's Matt Smith, then I'll be Team Black too, even though I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, now that I've made it all the way through Doctor Who and everything, and I've always known Matt Smith was a Doctor Who, and when I'm more familiar with him now, I keep waiting for Damon to say something, to come walking in with a bow tie.
AJ, you sound like you're really far away from the microphone.
Really?
Yeah, there. Now it's better. It sounds like you moved towards it.
I moved a centimeter.
Okay, well, that centimeter made a difference, apparently. All right. Well, we have a lot of stuff today, so why don't we get started?
Yeah, let's talk about the Who.
So the season finale of Doctor Who, Empire of Death. So, what did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
You
guys go first.
I mean, I think it was fine. There were like two kind of parts to it. There was the defeat of, I always say his name wrong, Sutek. I always want to say Sutek. So there was the whole his basically managing to destroy everything. I always kind of wonder about you want to destroy the universe and then kind of rule over nothing. Like at least Thanos only wanted to destroy 50% of the universe, right?
Yeah.
So to restore balance or whatever. But anyway, there was that part, and then there was Ruby and her mom, the whole Ruby and her mom thing. I was a little bit like the Doctor is all this is going on, and Ruby's still in the memory, looking for her mom or whatever. I was a little bit like, Ruby, get in the game, girl.
Yeah.
Because she's she's all in the snow and whatever, and all hell's breaking loose around her. But, I think they, I liked how it ended. I think they did a nice job. It makes sense for the Doctor to tell Ruby, look, you need to stay and deal with your family a little bit here. And so, I think it was, if I was going to look back on this whole season, which maybe we'll do later in this conversation, my feelings are mixed, but this was an okay episode. It's not going down as maybe one of the all-time greats. I don't know. But how do you guys feel?
I liked it, but I felt like a lot of things either weren't explained enough or they were explained so quickly that they weren't really explained. A lot of it moved really fast. I liked it. I mean, I think I've been reading a lot of people. The one thing they said is maybe they should have ended the last episode with Kate dying or something. It might have made a better cliffhanger, but I think at a certain point, I know I thought maybe they really killed Kate. I didn't think they were going to kill Kate because I thought there was supposedly, there's been talk of a spinoff. But once they start killing everybody, then Ark saying her father won't be Mad Jack, and yeah, it could be. Oh. But well, now I lost track of what I was saying. What was I saying? I think after so many people started dying, you knew they were going to have to rewind time or do something to change it, because they're not going to, in Dr. in Doctor Who kill a bunch of good characters. I mean, just generally they're not going to. Like I could buy, okay, maybe they killed Kate, or maybe they killed Ruby's mother, but her mother, her grandmother, well, we don't know if Mrs. Flood is good or not. You know, Susan and Rose, and like they're just not going to do that. So it was kind of obvious at that point they were going to go back. But that being said, I liked it. I just, like I said, I think a lot of it didn't make tons of sense. Like we talked, I know we kind of talked about this text and like how the TARDIS was brought back to life. I don't totally mind that because I kind of like the idea. And I've said from the beginning that that thing of the whole memory, like it makes me think of a weeping angel, of how, you know, an image of an angel can become an angel. So it's like an image of the TARDIS in her mind. So I can kind of buy that. And I really like how they did all the little like references and jokes, whatever you want to call them, inside that little mini TARDIS thing. And I'm looking at my review as I say this because I want to make sure I get this. There were I don't know how much of the stuff you guys saw within that little TARDIS thing. There was a lot of stuff in there. If you watch the behind the scenes thing, it shows a lot of things we didn't see. But I noticed a couple things, like there was a tie and I forget what else, but they had some other references too that had nothing to do with the TARDIS. Like I noticed that Mrs. Flood called the Doctor a clever boy, and I thought of the 12th Doctor when he gets a spoon because he's like saving the world with a spoon. It's like, yep, that's what you need. So I thought that was kind of cool. But some of the things really weren't. Some were explained better than others. Like I did not get until I went back that's, and they might have said it and I just missed it, but the little video screen that they were looking at, that was the time window still from Unit, I guess. I somehow missed that that's what that was. And if it is a time window, I don't understand why it only works with Ruby holding it. I mean, I get it's connected to her memories, but he could see it before. So I'm not sure that was explained. I did like the idea though, that they did explain how the Sutek that he hid within the what do you call it? Within the
time vortex.
The what?
The time vortex.
No, not the time vortex. The perception filter, and that was like that because they made mention of something like basically that within those 73 yards, so they had to get him out of that. They sort of went over it really quick and didn't go deep into it, but they did have that.
I like that 73 yards had a point.
Yeah, and I like that they brought back about him and that whole episode. It was nice that it kind of wrapped around. And the fact that he threw him into the time vortex, I guess that's how he got rid of him the first time. So that was cool. I know you're not supposed to understand what the thing with Mrs. Flood is. I want to know. I don't know how I feel about them breaking the fourth wall constantly, but yeah. But there's that. I mean, otherwise, I liked it. Like I said, I just feel like certain things moved really quick and were not really explained, like, enough. Either they were explained quickly or they didn't explain it right. I guess it kind of makes sense for her mother to be just a normal person. I mean, I don't know that that's what I was expecting and what a lot of people were expecting, but it didn't bother me. I like that she completely ignored what the doctor said and went after her anyway. So there's that. And I like also how she tricked Sutek, although I think that was kind of obvious it was coming, but the way she did it, but I still liked it. And Ark liked the references as well. So what about you, AJ?
Well, first and foremost, did anybody else think that Sutek looked like a giant rat head?
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
but it kind of looks like a jackal or something too.
I mean, I know what Sutek's supposed to look like, but just the way they did the close-ups and everything.
Yeah, it kind of did. Yeah.
I was like, he looks like a giant rat. Like I said, I like the fact that the perception filter is 73 yards, so that came into play for the episode.
Now AJ's walking away from the mic too. We keep going on.
I don't know what I was gonna say now. I like the fact that Ruby's mom turned out not to really matter. That she wasn't anybody special, nobody that we knew, nothing. I kind of like the fact and I know Karen hates this, that she's special because we made her special, like between the audience and Doctor Who and Ruby there, I think it's kind of an interesting twist, to kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I appreciate that she's just a regular girl. I'm glad that her parents didn't turn out to be anybody.
That's the magic, Karen.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
Yeah, no, I did like that. And as far as Mrs. Flood, I mean, there's so many theories running around about her. Some of them I have no idea who they're talking about. But the thing about Miss Flood that actually made me sit up at the end, when she said, the clever little boy did it, or she said that clever little boy, whatever the hell she said, and I was thinking, the only time I can ever think of anybody calling him that I've seen, I mean, I'm only on season 3 of Classics. But everything from 2005 on, the only person that's ever called him a clever boy was Clara.
And, that's actually been a theory, because if you look at her outfit, it's like the way she's dressed in Face the Raven.
But
I mean, we know she was going around in the TARDIS. I don't think it's her.
I think no, I don't think it is either. It just kind of made me sit up, because I think Mrs. Flood is a new character. When she broke the fourth wall on the church on Ruby Road, she said, oh, something like, oh, a TARDIS, I've never seen one before.
Have you ever seen a TARDIS?
So if it was Clara, she would have seen a TARDIS before. But yeah,
I don't think she said I've never seen one. She said, have you never seen a TARDIS, or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think Jamie's correct, but the point is that she knew a TARDIS.
Yeah, I think she's an original character. And as far as her breaking the fourth wall, she's the only one that broke the fourth wall twice this season. Other characters have broken the fourth wall in the past.
Mark is saying maybe could be Ramona or Roni. I know the other thing is people were saying river, flood. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case either. I mean, there's a lot of theories. I think she may be, like you said, she may be an original character, and it's just she's important. I don't know. And yeah, Ark's saying, she said, "Have you ever seen a TARDIS?" And yeah, that's what I thought it was. It was evident she had seen a TARDIS before. But the one thing Ark said too, though, is true. Clara was at the last moment in her life. I don't know that it would make sense that she got old or whatever.
If Clara comes back,
I don't know, timey-wimey.
So done. If Clara comes back, I'm not watching this show anymore.
I still want a spin-off of Clara and what's her face?
A Shielder.
Shielder. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And also Mrs. Flood, before she turned to dust, she said I had such plans.
Yeah, she seems like maybe she's a villain. We don't.
But yeah, I'm not really. I think she can kind of go either way.
Yeah.
And I think it's obviously intentional that he left us dangling with her.
Yeah. I know the one thing I'm looking at my review. One of the things that I had mentioned. The other thing to me that was one of the points that wasn't necessarily explained or was kind of silly was the fact that death killing, like if death goes through death or death kills death, it creates life or whatever. Like that didn't make sense to me. Like it can't just cancel it out. Like it was a cool effect and it was a cool ending and everything, but I don't know. Running death through the vortex, I don't see how that brought everybody back to life, really. If you think about it, it doesn't make tons of sense.
So I agree with you. I thought like a whole lot of this season didn't make sense, and much of this 2-part finale didn't make sense. It also kind of doesn't make sense. Like you're the god of death who is destroying the whole world, and the one great mystery, like he just has to know who Ruby's mother is. Like what? Sutek has to know who Ruby's mother is?
Well, I think with Sutek, I took it that it was more the one thing Sutek didn't know, like that he couldn't know. It wasn't that it mattered. It was that he was pissed off because he didn't have the answer. That was how I took it. I think they look like they're dressed for Stargate. That's all I kept thinking through this. She looks like she's dressed like Samantha.
I mean, I thought like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, how could that be the only thing he can't know? He can. I mean, then how could he know who anybody? Like, what? It just makes no sense. I do think that this was an episode that really was going for an emotional ending rather than anything that actually made sense. And like Russell T Davies is back, and he was always a guy that like maybe went for like the emotional, payoff more than the logical payoff. Yeah. I think this was less.
You know what I think would be interesting, because like we'd never reviewed it before, like a long time ago. Like you say that, and I kind of question, like, if we went back and rewatched like David Tennant and Matt Smith episodes, like how much of it would we actually, if we were picking apart, be saying this makes absolutely no sense? And I think sometimes when you pick it apart, you notice it more, where otherwise we would have just been like, oh, this was a good episode.
As someone who binged the hell out of it over 13 seasons over a couple months, there's a lot of stuff that didn't make sense, but after a while it was, oh, this must just be how Doctor Who is, and you move on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like because we're reviewing it, we're picking it apart more than as like a normal viewing.
I mean, I don't know that we're picking it apart. We're critiquing
it.
No,
I'm just and we should. I'm just saying, I'm curious if we went back and critiqued the other episodes with Matt Smith and David Tennant, like
I'm sure we would.
Supposed to be such classics, we'd be doing the same thing. I'm just saying, like, that it isn't like this is limited to being this season that doesn't.
Okay, I feel
like we would do the same.
As a longtime viewer, I feel that this season and this episode make less sense. Are on the lower end of making sense. Are in the bottom 10%. This is the bottom 10% of making sense of Doctor Who episodes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I think there are two of the problems with this season overall, which are huge things. I think one, it's only 10 episode season, so I think that definitely hurt it. I think those other 3 episodes would have really helped, kind of stretch it out a little, maybe get us to know our Doctor a little better. And the fact that Shruti was still doing sex ed, so we had more Dr. Light episodes than we normally would.
They just should have waited a couple months, and then they could have made more episodes, and he could have.
Everybody's on a time. Well, I mean, the shorter episodes was going to happen no matter what because of the writers.
Yeah, I know.
There was no way around that.
Would I prefer
schedule?
Would I prefer them to wait for Shruti to have been ready? Yes, but you don't know who else you lose out of the cast if you put off for one. Everybody else has cleared their schedule. The writers, you got sets booked, you got like photographers booked. Everybody. There's like hundreds of people have to fall into place. So I get that you can't necessarily move the whole thing. I get it, but in a dream world, number 1 on the call sheet, Shruti Gatwa. Do we wait till he's ready? I agree. I would have liked to have had more time with him. I might have felt less, I've complained several times that I don't I found that this Doctor multiple times in the season was like, I don't know how to, there was never one foe that he's like, I recognize these guys. I know their weaknesses, right? I like having new monsters and new enemies and new problems, but
it's he doesn't know what to do.
He's not the most competent of doctors yet.
Yeah.
And not the most. It's funny because he exudes a lot of confidence in a lot of ways in life, and yet this Doctor also doesn't seem super confident about taking on. I don't know. I feel like it was just okay. This is not one that's going to stick with me.
Still better than season 10.
Yes.
Season 10's what? What's her face?
Bill.
Oh, Bill.
And nothing against her or anything. It was just, that was a lot of rough writing. That was, I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of the 13th Doctor that we didn't love either. So that's what I thought you meant. I was trying to figure
Well,
out what season.
I mean, I liked third.
I like most of the stuff with Jodie Whittaker.
I liked
Most of it I
Jodie's
didn't like.
season. I didn't like having 3 companions competing for screen time.
Yeah, I didn't either. You know what's funny? You know, I complained about that when I watched everything. That was the one thing about Jodie's run that I didn't like was so many companions, and I liked it when they kind of backed off on that a little bit. And watching the original, the classic Doctor, I'm still on the first Doctor, but multiple companions this first 3 seasons. There's been at least 2 or 3 at all times.
Crowded TARDIS, yeah.
So I thought it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ark's saying she's been a fan since the beginning, but didn't like a lot of Jodie Whittaker's run. I don't know. There were things I didn't like about her run. I mean, I think the biggest complaints for everybody is rewriting, Doctor Who history.
The timeless child nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, a lot of it was good. I know we complained a lot, but there was good, there was bad. They all have, some good, some bad.
Listen, the first Doctor doesn't even have a sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true.
And so.
Well, hey, this guy has a sonic disc thing. It doesn't look like a screwdriver. I know it is.
It looks like a mouse.
Yeah, yes, it looks like a mouse. You're right. It looks like
And there's a degree to which I think Disney's doing okay by this piece of property so far. Like the bigger budget is obvious.
Well, we like David Tennant's episode, so it isn't. I mean, it's more about the scripts than it is about the actual.
I'm getting at like the way Disney is mismanaging other intellectual properties, such as the entire Star Wars franchise. Now, Doctor Who
Acolyte too
only has one show and only will have one show. Hopefully, Disney does seem to be doing Disney's
spinoff.
I don't want to watch a spinoff. It depends who it is, but
depends what the spinoff is.
Like when
bring back Torchwood.
We're not going to have 4 or 5 spin-off, like all this crap like we have with Star Wars, which is too much Star Wars. But I digress, and we can talk about it when we get to the Acolyte. I think that Disney is putting the money into it. They're promoting it. They're behind this show. The BBC ratings have not been good. It's not clear whether there's not interest in this show or it's Disney is like sucking people away from BBC and iPlayer, right? And people are watching it, not watching it live like they have in the UK forever, right?
Yeah.
Ark and I are going to start a campaign.
Yeah, Torchwood. And if we're talking about new series, I still want to see the Pastor Daughter Gang. That would be awesome.
That would be kind of cool.
I'd love that.
Although
I wouldn't mind a unit spinoff though. There's supposed to be coming a unit spinoff.
You know what? I feel like a unit. I don't know how I feel about a unit spinoff. I feel like a unit spinoff would be Torchwood light.
Kind of. But they could have Osgood and Kate and it could, but yes, you're right. It is kind of Torchwood adjacent.
All right, I'm gonna circle you guys back to talk about the show we're discussing. We have a jam-packed schedule tonight, and it's already 23 minutes into this show.
Yeah.
So any more impressions of the episode that we saw? We're getting, so it ends with Millie Gibson with Ruby just at the doctor's encouragement. She's going to stay home and not travel with him anymore. But we know that she's back next season and that we're getting another companion next season to join them.
And we are getting a Christmas episode too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Moffat, so hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty good. I don't feel there's like any like true standout episode that I will remember forever in this season, but maybe they'll find their groove.
I feel like this season with Russell T Davies that it's been a lot of like trying to do things differently, and I don't want to say like shock value because I don't mean it in that sense, but sort of like they're all kind of got their own thing and they seem a lot different, I guess, in a way. Like he's trying to make it different, which I kind of appreciate, but like we need some classic stuff too. Like we had Dot and Bubble. Like it was a different sort of thing, and it was
Yeah. I think
supposed to
Rogue
be
was
like the other, like what is wrong with me? Black help me out here. to show that it was copying
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. I kept thinking of Blackadder, which is not anything related to that. And then they had like the Bridgerton episode. Like, we haven't had a lot of the classic stuff, which feel more like just normal.
Well, that's where I was saying
things.
That's where I'm saying I think the 10 episodes really
hurt.
I mean,
I agree.
We could have had 3 more episodes like Rogue. We could have had 3 more just fun off the cuff type episodes.
Yeah. Although
that would have made it
even though that was Bridgerton, though, it was one of the best ones. But yeah,
I think it was the best one.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, we'll see what happens this Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah, at least it isn't too far.
All right. What do we
off to us? Well, if anybody has any more comments, remember that you can always comment on Facebook or YouTube, and we will see your comments and let us know what you think about the show. All right.
So
what
are we going?
The big news this week for us, the big deal was Orphan Black Echoes.
We're doing Echoes.
Let's do Echoes.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Orphan Black Echoes premiered this week. We all saw it.
What did you guys think? Because I've already seen the whole thing, so I kind of have.
Of course you have.
Yeah, well, you can too. It's not like I mean, it's on.
No, I know.
Before it got screened.
I actually have all the episodes, but I'm gonna wait and watch each week.
Well, I'm rewatching.
So I felt so. Whatever you guys, whatever you guys are gonna do what you're. I don't care. I think that. I mean, I thought it was okay. I think, as usual, the AMC marketing department had spoiled the big reveal. And like I was spoiled. I'm sure Jamie was spoiled.
I was spoiled because I looked up Internet Movie Database before I watched it because I'm an idiot and didn't know not to do that. So I was spoiled right away when I first seen it. But
I mean, AJ, were you spoiled on the final?
I was not spoiled. I actually was like relaxing, and at the end of the episode, she says, "Hey, Aunt Cosima," and I jumped up and went, "Aunt Cosima!" I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I'm like, "Really, Dr. Kira?" I'm like, "Didn't she learn her lesson when she was a child?"
I know, like
I'm a little pissed off.
Everybody, I'm kind of pissed off that she would.
Yeah, I was highly pissed off at the end of the episode. I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Kira didn't learn anything." I was,
not.
So I would say, I mean, so if you listen to the podcast. Which, I mean, it's not, you don't have to have listened to the podcast, but it's canon. The podcast happens at a point when Kira is about. You
can find all the reviews on Sci-Fi.
It happens at a point when it happens when she's like 16 or 17 years old in the podcast, right? And she's looking for she gets an internship at a big biotech company. Kira's interest in biotech and cloning and her aunt's history and whatever is all a part of that, right? You listen to it, Jamie.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But it is not a pot, like it is all wrapped up in like trying to solve the mystery and guys with guns trying to shoot them and whatever. It's not like I'd say I agree with AJ that even that podcast goes further down the road of did Kira learn a lesson? I actually thought this actress had a resemblance to the actress who played Delphine in the original.
Yeah, kind of.
She doesn't
do that.
Now that you said that, yeah.
She's not unlike Delphine, and at first I was like, wait, is that the Kira? Like, wait, what? But yeah, I was blown on that. I had read that somewhere on the internet that Kira was going to be a character in it, and I was blown on it. But I think you're right. How could she, she's cloning people? So the twist, this takes place 37 years after, right? 37 years in the future, or she is 37.
It's 2052.
Yeah, it's 2052. So it's 20.
Well, I think it's 2050, and then it's 2 years later at the beginning.
Yeah.
so whatever, it's like a good 30 years later, and so
I
right.
do like the idea though that they're calling it 4D, but essentially 3D printed.
Yeah, 4D printing.
That I think that's like a cool
person.
futuristic twist. Yeah, which clearly we can't do, but I think that's a neat twist. Yeah. Although aside from the futuristic looking buildings in the background, though, I don't really see a whole bunch of and the 4D printing. There's not really like a lot that makes it look like 2052.
I think when Kristen, when it flashes forward to 2052 and Kristen Ritter is working in this agricultural place, there's a scene where she's driving in a pickup truck and you can see a lot of like computer like screens and stuff in the car. And in the landscape, there's a lot of windmills, like electric power windmill thing. What are they called? Wind generation things, right? On the landscape. And there are some like nods to, but there's like no flying cars or anything, right?
Right.
Which I kind of like that they,
it's more grounded. I just was kind of joking. It's just saying like it doesn't look futuristic, but except for the skyline. But
and
it doesn't need to.
If you looked back 25 years into our past, which
it's not that different. Yeah,
it's not that different.
Yeah,
it's not that different. So, I don't have a photograph. So Kristen Ritter is the star. Her character, what's her character's name? I forget her name. Lucy. And Lucy has a boyfriend, and the boyfriend has a child.
Who's from Ghost Wars? I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't even know that.
We watched it back when
Karen,
we
hated it. Karen,
I liked it.
Yeah, I don't really remember it because I hated it. So she has formed this like family pretty quickly. But unfortunately, she was 3D printed in a Kira's weirdo lab. And based on, so when that guy this guy comes to try to like capture Lucy and bring her back. And he works with Kira, but there is some disagreement inside their corporation on how to handle things, right? Yeah, and when that happens, she sees this kind of tattoo that she didn't know she had this sort of like, what did I just do to the screen here? She didn't know that she had this kind of strange ultraviolet light tattoo or whatever there. But it makes me think that we are like going to continue with some of the previous Orphan Black themes about intellectual property and trademarking a living thing. There are like lab mice that are patented and stuff. Remember how they were like patented and they had all that issue. So I feel like that is going to raise its head also. And then there's that part where Lucy sees the kid and starts weirdo stalking this kid that she saw because I don't know, like that part kind of lost me. What'd you guys think of that part where she just like has a feeling that she should be stalking this poor kid?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I gave her the feeling to start following. Like it was because she had a memory. Like she saw the kid and she like had a flashback of a memory. So, I mean, the kid is clearly another clone.
Yes.
I can't. Some of it will be explained, so it's kind of hard.
Like she had a memory of looking in the mirror and seeing that face in the mirror. So it's like it's her.
Okay, they did show that. Then
it's her.
Why
it's her younger
version. Same scar too.
Okay, but wouldn't that have to be like a fake memory because she woke up? Well, she goes into that. Like she has a memory of waking up in that tub, right? Or she goes in there and sees another clone wake up in the tub or something, right?
Yeah, it's all very obscure. So
I don't think she has a memory of that tub, but she's having kind of flashes. We don't know.
She was never a child. She was never a child.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that.
Okay, I believe she was never a child.
I would assume she was 3D printed as an adult. but it's see, again, it's hard for me to really answer that because I have hindsight of knowing the answer to it. But I would assume since she sees an adult body, that her in particular was cloned as an adult or printed as an adult. That was my understanding when I first watched it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like that they're going that route, maybe, because like, is it cloning? Isn't it cloning? Like, cloning to me is like a different thing than printing copies somehow. Like, are they clones? Are they like, is there a difference between Sarah being a clone and Lucy being a printed copy?
I think there is a difference.
I think there is a difference too. And really, are they printing multiple copies of Lucy, or can you control it better and make them different by just tweaking your computer program and your printer, right? Like, couldn't I be 3D printing steak, and then I'm like, oh, I want a bigger steak, and I just print the next steak bigger, right? Or like, I want a pork chop. Let me 3D print a pork chop. Like, I don't know. Like,
there's a lot more to it yet. Let's just say that.
Obviously, there's a lot more to it. It's the first.
No, I know. I'm just saying you're missing kind of a big key component.
Well, yeah, we obviously, Jamie, because we haven't seen the whole thing.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, just going by what she's saying, like, there's a big.
We have a new guest in the chat. I'm not really sure what this person means by she had better characters.
Oh yeah, Kristen Ritter played Jessica Jones, right?
Yes, she was. And Jane on Breaking Bad, she had like 2 lines.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find Lucy. So I might agree that this character Lucy is not super compelling right now. And it's kind of a miracle that she's still alive and hasn't been recaptured yet. Like, I'm not really sure how she like stayed off the radar, and she's kind of I mean, maybe she will become more of a we haven't had enough time to really get to like her yet, right? So that hopefully will
we've only had an hour.
That hopefully will be coming. And I mean, I don't expect this show to achieve what the original Orphan Black did.
No.
It's never going to be the original.
Well, it's never going to be as good. Like, and I just, but if it can be pretty good, that might be good enough for me.
I mean, I think in a situation like, I mean, it's the people behind it are the original creators of Orphan Black, so there's that going for it.
Which, speaking of, I was just going to say, I'm talking to John Fawcett tomorrow. So if anybody has any questions, he worked on the original show, and he's a producer on this show. So if you have any questions, send them to me on Twitter.
So far, the best thing is the tagline. No, I can't remember what it is. A unique copy of the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. A unique copy of the original. Yeah, that's pretty. The tagline for the show. Yeah. And aside from Lucy, I am kind of really interested in that part, like where, like, how did Kira get here?
Yeah, I'm a little mad at
Kira. Yeah, after everything, it's kind of like, how could you do this? Why would you do it? You went through how many years of being miserable because of what happened with your mother. Why would you do this?
You know what, though? To be fair, when Cosima was, they're working on everything, Cosima was kind of into it. You know what I mean? Like, Cosima was always very, this is wrong, and I got to take, help my sisters and everything. But since I'm here, so, and of course, who does she call but Cosima? So Cosima apparently knows exactly what Kira's doing.
Well, and like Delphine was very into it, and she kind of
screw Delphine.
She drew Cosima into it, though, right? She kind of was sometimes convincing Cosima that, like, oh, well, this is bad, but you should be a part of it because you can make them less bad by being here. They're just going to be worse if you don't help, or right? Like, there was, and yeah, Cosima was into it to solve her own mystery, but also because it was just like cool science, right?
I just remember that Kira had a not great childhood. And especially in the podcast, she was like upset about how her childhood had kind of been messed up. And that's to me like why I want to be like, why? And shake her like, why would you do this after everything?
Well, what do you mean? She had, like, you mean her early childhood when her mother was like running the streets at like her early childhood was chaotic because of Sarah's life being what it was. Sarah was a con artist and
not just that, but even like what happened
About when Rachel kidnapped her.
But even like what happened in the podcast series, like with all the stuff that they went through, it just I just you would think that she would have thought a little bit more before she did it, and maybe she did. I mean, again,
well, guess we'll find
hindsight, but we'll find out. You guys will find out.
So I want to bring up. Oh, actually, look at that photo. She's married. I wonder if her spouse will be a character. I don't have a photograph, but I've texted you guys like in the very first sequence where Lucy is locked in the living room. This where Kira's sitting now talking to her. She's locked in this room and she gets really mad and she smashes the lamp and they drug her and she wakes up and the lamp is there on the table and Lucy even like gives it a double take and was like, wait, like you can see the way she looks. I rewound it to make sure it's the exact same lamp. And it made me think like, did they have like 100 lamps because they know it's going to get smashed? Or is there like is there a time, like, is there a memory or a timeline issue? Wait, let me finish. Is there like some sort of timeline issue or a memory issue or a thing going on there that, right? Like, did you guys notice that right away?
Oh, I noticed the lamp right away. I was like, hey, look, the lamp is back. I was like, they must have cloned the lamp.
Right? I was like, did they just replace the lamp? Or is it
funny
like a
because
memory out of sequence?
At first, there was a part of me until I realized that, it looked like it's just going to mostly follow Lucy. At first, I thought, are we even seeing the same person?
That was my original thought. Is this the same Lucy or another Lucy or whatever?
Except that Lucy definitely does a double take at that lamp. I don't have a picture of it.
So, you're right. But for a moment, we're kind of...
So I wasn't sure if they're playing with like some sequence, or if her memories are out of whack or something. Or sometimes a lamp is just a lamp. Maybe they're like, go get another lamp. These clones keep smashing up these lamps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Kira does make a comment to the people she works with about her missing some memories. So,
yeah. I mean, she says it really to Lucy. She's like, after you rest, you might be able to,
Well, that too, but no, I mean, she says something to that,
the catcher, the clone catcher.
Says something to him like, it doesn't mean that she's like, is missing memory. It doesn't mean that she's damaged or whatever.
Yeah.
Something to that.
Yeah. I tell you what, I definitely don't like her colleagues because they're like, no. She killed one of our people. Your person went and attacked her. Like, granted, she didn't. They don't know that she is not.
Yeah, they don't know she didn't.
But like, you send somebody out to get her in that manner. Did you expect her to just be like, sure, no problem? Like, she's going to defend herself. Like,
and she's
they're very narrow.
Stayed away from 2 years too. She doesn't want to go back.
Oh, have you learned nothing from how many people the clones killed 25 years ago? They killed like 17 people at least, right?
Yeah.
They're all bad people.
Yeah, they're all bad.
Okay.
And Donnie didn't mean to kill Leaky.
No.
Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes ever. That whole thing, like where they're burying them in the garage, or that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we need to rewatch that. We need to do a rewatch.
Yeah. All right.
Now we also meet Craig in this episode. I'm just looking at the cast list.
Who's Craig?
That runs the sort of I guess halfway house for drug addicts.
Oh, the guy she went to.
I guess she lived there when she first escaped.
Yeah, he's cool.
Is he like, I felt like he was a person that she runs it. I didn't expect I'm going to see him again. He's going to be a character.
Yeah.
Now, we got to be careful what we're spilling here because.
Well, that's in the cast list. I don't think that's really a spoiler.
Well, cast list can include people who do one episode. But whatever. I guess he's going to be. I mean, I guess
it's not really. Either way, it's not really relevant. It's just,
I guess he's her only friend, so whatever. So, all right. So we'll see what happens with it in the next. What are there? 10 episodes.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So we'll see what.
The only thing I was gonna say, we didn't talk a whole lot about Jules. We kind of glossed over.
Wasn't a lot to talk about with her.
No, there wasn't. I was gonna say
she ran. She caught her. They got in the truck.
But that was about.
I mean, she ran because a creepy lady was chasing her.
Now, I gotta say, I wondered, and I'm not saying whether this is the case or not, but I kind of wondered if that one that you're talking about, the creepy lady, if she was like one of the handlers, or I forget what they were called in the original, but
handlers,
yeah, like what Donnie, and that was what that made me think of when I first watched this.
Oh, well, there seem to be no handlers because you're not supposed to escape from the lab in this one.
There's that. That's true.
This guy, like these guys are not. He's not a handler, because she's not supposed to be living there.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll see where it goes, and we'll be back here to talk about it some more next week. And let's move on with the heavy schedule for tonight.
All righty. What do we want to do next? Oops. We want to do. We still have Acolyte, Dark Matter.
Dark Matter's on the top of the list.
Okay. Well,
if I go through this in order, I got Dark Matter. So Dark Matter was really good this week.
Now this is the next to last episode.
Yes, called Jupiter. Second to last episode. It is the episode where we get our minds blown by. I'm trying to find. Every picture is so dark. The meeting of the Jasons. And by the end of this episode, we have met probably six Jason Primes. So now we Jason, we always had Jason Prime and Jason 2, and now I
think it leaves all our minds twisted. That's why when you guys were saying things last week, I'm thinking you haven't even seen what's going on.
Yes. We have Jason Prime 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Jasons. Let's just put it.
And as this was going on, I had texted you guys. I was like, how many Jason Primes can he kill before someone notices, right? I actually thought, so when, these Jasons meet, right? And you can see how, they were the same guy up until very recently, and yet they're very different. So in this picture, the Jason on the left is Jason number 1, our Jason, right? And this guy on the right is a version of Jason who has a very different attitude. And he's definitely I am going to kill all you guys until I get my Daniela back, right?
Yeah. And this is where we get into the discussion where I was saying before, where I think with this kind of show, it's sort of it's splitting off with every choice, I guess, because clearly they all think it's their Daniela.
Well, it is.
Yeah, it is. But there's only one. Well, I mean, I guess technically there is more than one Daniela. But
no, they're all. Well, no, they're all right.
Because it's his timeline that splits off, not her.
It's because every decision he made after him and Amanda got in the box has split into all these different Jasons.
Yeah.
These guys are from this world. They're all versions of Jason Prime, and they all. Okay, this isn't going to sound right, but they all have a claim on Daniela, right? Yeah. Daniela is their Daniela.
Well, all right. I know you didn't mean it that way, but let's say they all have a claim on this life.
On this life, yeah.
So there's multiple versions of them in one world, and it's they're all there and don't know where to go. They're all trying for the same thing.
Well, that's the funny thing. They all, I mean, from the beginning of the episode, when he walks into the gun shop, and the first Jason, the whole interaction in the gun shop, I'm like, this doesn't seem suspicious, but yeah, let's sell this guy a knife. Why are you not calling 911 going, hey, I just had some really weird guy in the gun shop.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jason Primes.
And then he comes back in, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, but wait, why would Jason 2 need a gun? And then all of a sudden, when she said something, she goes, he didn't have a bracelet in his hand like you. And I was like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on here?
There's
I'm
another.
like, why are they all? I was like, wait a minute, they're dressed the same. I'm like, something. I got Artie sitting over in the corner, snickering at me.
Oh, because
Because he already knew this was coming because he read the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, how? And then, and then it continues. I'm like, how many fucking Jasons are there? Like, what's going on here?
The one that he killed in the bathroom, that was Badfinger. The guy who, right? He was also kind of gimpy. He was burnt.
No, he was the guy that was, the guy in the bathroom was the guy that was burned.
Oh, yeah. The guy in the bathroom was the burn guy.
we haven't seen the finger guy since we first saw him. So he's still out there.
I actually thought when Jason put him in there and he closes the stall door and you didn't get the guy, I actually thought when he picked up the knife that he was going to cut that guy's face off so that the police wouldn't ever find out who he was. But that was stupid because we have DNA and they could, right? Like if you kill too many versions of yourself and leave them lying around, the DNA is going to get tested or whatever. So I liked that Daniela was on the verge of figuring it out. Where's this picture? Oh, she goes to see Ryan, right? Here, is this poor Ryan? Poor Ryan is like a disaster after what he's been through.
Wouldn't you be?
Well, yeah. And
he's a drunken mechanic. He can't handle it.
Well, he doesn't know. He's one of the few people who has traveled and not known what was going on with the box. Like pretty much everyone. Okay, so when Jason
traveled, he doesn't remember it. He doesn't even know.
He was drunk. He don't know what was going on.
Well, he was drunk. Also, he doesn't have the our Jason Prime didn't know, but he has the physics education to understand what happened to him, right? And Leighton had it all explained to him before he went in, and Amanda, every person we've seen go in has understood it or had the capacity to understood it, and then Ryan. This version of Ryan has never taken he's doubly. I feel like there's just extra reasons why he's messed up about this. But at any rate, Daniela comes to visit him and it all comes out, right? That she doesn't get it in this picture. She's like, wait a minute, Jason was giving you drinks. She's appalled. She's not there yet, but she's getting there, right? To what eventually she's going to know. It was nice to see her, I think, finally starting to be, I don't want to say she's not a character, but she's an object right? She's almost like a MacGuffin. She's a thing that the characters want and are all trying to get. And now that she's in on it, if there's a season 2, we'll get to see her, I hope, have a little more agency and be a little more of it looks like, she's on the run now and they're going to be partners maybe. Well,
I hope there's not a season 2. Because
there shouldn't be. It should be resolved next week, right? So I haven't read the book. The only person we know who's read the book is your son. Does he think it should end next week? Is there yes, so does. Okay? So there's not a ton of story left to. I don't know how they're going to resolve all these Jasons and who gets the claim, who gets her, who wins, right?
Yeah, I don't.
We just want it to be our Jason, but doesn't necessarily mean that that's fair to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. This is a curveball that I did not see coming, but makes perfect sense. You know? I don't know how they're gonna resolve it. I'm sure there's some sort of resolution. What it is, I don't know. But
it does twist your mind though, and it's confusing.
This isn't a magic world where you could collapse all these Jasons back down into our Jason Prime. They exist, they're out there. They don't want to give up. I feel like I don't want Daniela's choice to be taken away also, right? But she can't date 100 Jasons and decide which one she likes the best.
The thing is, they're all her Jason.
Yeah.
Just different experiences since they've been gone.
Yeah, they're all her Jason, and yet our Jason Prime isn't a killer yet, really, unless he had to defend himself, right? And like this other guy, well, this guy is definitely a killer.
Well, I think we have to root for our Jason regardless, just because
but
you were.
Like the guy in the bar, he definitely was like, look, I don't want to, yes, Ark, that's where I'm like taking myself down this road. Like, do Jason and Daniela just go in the box and find a new place? Jason, Daniela, and Charlie be like, let's go in the box. They could steal Jason's whole thing of ampules, and they could go find a world to live in, right? I thought of that. Did you guys think of that? Jamie,
did not
you watched it, right? You didn't think of
Yeah.
that?
I can't really.
I didn't think of that. I just it's a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Because even though we've been following our Jason this whole time, the other Jason Primes are, you know, like I said, have just as much right to this life as he does.
Yeah.
You know, I say at the very least, maybe they should all put their differences aside for at least a minute, and they should all kill Jason too, together, just like, you know, like Caesar his ass, just a bunch of people.
Yeah. Everybody stabs him once until he stabbed like yeah. I mean, the other thing about going back into the box, like, would they always be pursued? And like, that's a life of hiding and pursuit, and you don't know. I mean, the chances that one of them would show up are probably small, and yet it's TV land and people show up all the time, right? Like they could find there's
also, we got to remember, an infinite number of universes too. So
there is, but the way Jason got back to Daniela, like it turned out imagining the place was not working. It was when he really focused on like Daniela and wanted like that he was able to control the box to get where he wanted to go, right? Our Jason Prime. Bad Jason too. I don't know how he has such good control. He has really, really good control.
He's been practicing a lot longer.
Yeah. But it was like when Jason stopped overthinking it as a location and approached it more as a feeling, then he was able to get there. And also remember that Amanda's feeling had to be taken out of it. Amanda was like, I'm stopping you, right? I don't know. I don't feel like it's impossible for other Jasons to like pursue them into it's the ampules that really are the limiting factor. I feel like if it's the love for Daniela that helped him to find the correct world, well, that's how all these other guys found it also.
Yeah. By the way, did anybody else feel like the world that Amanda decided to stay in looked just like the world that Ryan was taken to?
Yeah, maybe
like
they
when they first got there during the day, I thought it kind of looked like it. But when he saw it at night and I saw the Aurora Borealis over the city, I was like, that's the same city. I was like, that is the same one Ryan's in. There's no reason to do that unless it's going to play into something. And remember, he left her those 2 ampules in her purse before they separated. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan and Amanda end up showing up at some point. Like somehow they're going to run into each other and she's going to be like, oh, look, I have these 2 ampules. Let's go.
Maybe. I mean, I think you're right. Those ampules are like Chekhov's gun. If you see them, they will be used before the series is over, right? Yeah. That's interesting. I kind of forgot about her, but she's out there. Yeah.
But yes, AJ, to answer your question, I thought the same thing too.
Yeah. Maybe they couldn't afford another set. Maybe they blew all their.
Well, I think it's digital.
Skyline.
So I don't think
not a set, but another like.
I know what you mean. I know.
Like it's expensive to pay those FX people, right?
Arc agrees too.
Yep.
What, that they couldn't afford a new
set?
No,
that was the same
like the same timeline.
Okay.
Or the same universe. Sorry, not timeline.
Well, I don't know how this all gets resolved in one episode. It's going to be crazy town to see this wrapped up next week. And I can't wait to see how they do it.
You know, this is like, I was thinking about it with filming wise, like for an actor, this is like Orphan Black on steroids. I was just thinking of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. At least
I'm just saying from an acting standpoint.
Yeah, but at least there's only one. It's the same guy. You're not like a different. He doesn't put on a different accent
True.
every time,
True,
right?
true. Yeah,
Um,
very true.
Yeah, I was gonna say compared to what Tatiana went through, I don't know that I agree with that.
No, I just meant because there's so many of them. I was just joking more than anything. But
well, that Blake Crouch sure did write a good story here. I mean, he wrote Wayward Pines, which we enjoyed also.
The first season.
Yeah, it didn't really. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week and seeing what happens with this show. And be here with us next week, and we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
All right. So.
Yes.
We have Acolyte or Interview next.
Interview with the Vampire. It's next.
That time was a good episode.
This episode was great and horrifying. Thoughts?
My thoughts were mostly on what I had texted you about. My questions were more, I guess, because you guys read it and know what's going on. That this time we see, like, what we're seeing. Louis is seeing a different version. Is it all Lestat in his mind games, or did Louis really misremember because he remembered it the way he wanted to remember it? Like, how much of, I mean, that was just kind of my main question, is how much of what Lestat said really happened actually happened? Because I thought at first it was all just him, like I said, mind screwing him over, but it's hard to tell. It could go either way.
Well, go ahead, Karen.
I think it actually happened. I don't think there's any disagreement on either side that it all happened. It's how it happened, right? It's
right. Yes, that's more what I mean. But like he's making it in Louis's version, Lestat is horrible, toxic, awful, destructive, and you see this side and it makes it seem, not that he necessarily wasn't, but makes it seem like Louis caused some of it and was at fault for some of it, or was at least equally at fault for some of it. And I don't know, it's just like seeing it from a different point of view. And yeah. I really just at first thought that it was just him totally saying stuff to screw Louis over and to make him, be more in love with him, or to wish he had done things different, whatever. Just him screwing around with them. But I then Louis like, no, that's use his version. So I don't know. Some of it may have actually happened that way. It's interesting to think about.
So it's funny, like AMC has like a ton of photographs from this episode, and there are none from the flashback, because I guess maybe that's a thing that they were trying to keep from being spoiled, right? They don't want to post pictures.
Or because they'd be like other photos. They might have filmed them before even.
I feel like the best way to answer your question, though, Jamie, is take 2 parts Louis, 1 part Lestat, and somewhere in there you'll find the truth.
Yeah. That's what I said. I think maybe some.
Because I mean, Louis
he's still screwing around with them though too.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of them are reliable narrators. Louis partly because his memory isn't as good as, like, it's not that he's forgotten the things; it's how he remembers the things. Whereas Lestat knows exactly what happened, but depends on how he feels like telling the story that day. I mean, the parts about how Claudio was made was the truth, which Louis is like, oh my God, I forgot. That's how it happened.
That was more the big thing, because
the other part about Louis being the aggressor in their relationship is total bullshit. You know that's total bullshit just from Lestat and how he is.
Right. But you're saying Louis did try to get him to make Claudia then, like he
absolutely. Yeah.
He begged him.
Yeah.
He begged him.
And Louis admits to it, and Louis even says that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
know he said he kind of. I did a little bit feel Ark saying that she felt for Lestat. I did a little bit, but he's still like so toxically an abuser. Like I kind of in time see like he was hurt and why he did it, but he's still, I mean, he's even saying, oh, I decided to drop him because he wouldn't love me. Like, yeah, it's harsh.
So I hear you. I'm not going to say that Lestat is not a toxic spouse
But he was hurt.
because he 100% is. However, remember that the entirety of season 1 was Louis telling the story. It was
we didn't hear the stats side of it.
It was not a video of the fact. It was Louis, and Louis has been so self-loathing of being a vampire, right? He's like Angel, like, oh, I'm a vampire, I can only eat rats, I hate to kill people, wah wah wah.
Arc's saying it's true though too. Armand might have changed some of it too.
I don't
erase things, we don't know.
I do not believe that Armand has tampered with that. I think Armand has tampered with parts of things that happened. I personally, this is my personal take from what I've seen on the screen. I'm not saying I know it from the book or that you guys couldn't be right, but I personally don't think Armand tampered with Louis's recollection. I think Louis has enough self-loathing and enough. He's been lying. He has lied to Daniel so many times.
He's lied to himself too.
Well, he has, but he's lied outright to Daniel and been caught a lot in so many things. And I think also that Louis is so guilt-ridden over the death of Claudia that he has to tell himself this story in which he is never the bad guy that brought him to this point. Like, he did truly like willfully forget. Armand didn't erase his memory of creating her, I don't think. I don't think Armand
with Claudia, no.
Right, like Louis has told himself this story all along because of like this moment he's so traumatized by, and also he just like is so like traumatized by being a vampire. I also think Lestat is toxic and a bully, but he's very needy and selfish, right? Like, I can see him reacting like violent. Like, I think the part like Louis, like, I loved Louis so much and he didn't love me back. I think Lestat really believes that. I don't think he was making that up for the trial. I think he really believes that he loved Louis and was wonderful to Louis, and that Louis could. Yeah. He's very selfish.
I feel like in that scene he's realizing a little bit of what he did, because he seems a little, I don't want to say quite horrified, but he seems a little surprised as he's talking. He's like, I dropped him. Like I think that he didn't blame himself as much until that point, I guess. I feel like he maybe didn't realize some of what he did. It seemed to me like he was,
I don't know.
Now, who is, Richard saying Angel would kick Louis? I don't know who Angel is.
Oh, you never watched
Angel from like Buffy Angel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of agree with that, I think.
Angel would kick Louis' ass.
But Art doesn't agree with that. Oh. Angel always, I don't know. Angel was always very.
Angel is very. He is way more angsty than Louis. Yeah.
And Ark's saying they're both toxic, which is true. I
mean, that I agree with too.
I mean, to be honest, Louis is sort of, maybe not to the extent of Lestat, but Louis is sort of an abuser to Armand at times too.
Oh, he's definitely.
So, like I said, not as much as Lestat, but he is.
Well, I think with Louis and Armand, it's almost like Louis. It's almost like Louis trying to get the better of Armand before Armand gets better, because Armand is very manipulative too. Armand is just
they're all manipulative.
Armand's a little more subtle than Lestat.
Armand
is a lot more subtle than Lestat. But it's so nice to see Lestat again, though. He really does really add to the show.
He does make my screen much more beautiful every time.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, Sam Neill is killing it.
Sam Reed, not Sam O'Neill.
Sam Reed, sorry. As soon as I said Sam Neill,
it's not Sam O'Neill.
He might be the most. He might be the most perfectly cast actor ever in this role.
He really is. He just, yeah.
So I want to talk about. I do think so. I love this shot because I feel like this sort of encapsulates like their relationship right now. Like everything we've seen has brought Louis and Armand to this point where they're like opposite sides of the table, staring at each other, hating each other. Like I can't believe these two have been dating for 77 years. They're like also in a toxic, abusive relationship and a codependent relationship, right? And so are vampires just bad partners? Is it Louis? Does Louis choose bad partners? Is Louis like, I love this. I just felt like when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of where we are right now with these two.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about this and this and this. It was horrible. This picture is horrible, right? How did you guys enjoy the trial sequences? The play?
I was gonna say, what do you mean by it's horrible? You mean like what they did to them? I'm not sure what.
Yeah, how terrified they are and how sham the trial.
Yeah, it's like they don't even get to. I mean, even though it's a sham, I feel like they could at least be allowed to defend themselves without them making them nuts. You know, they like.
Yeah, they're already guilty. This is entertainment.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I would think they would still be entertained hearing them complain and bitch, but it's like they can't even defend themselves. That makes it that much worse, I guess. I don't know how the one thing I do want to say is I don't know how I feel about Madeline like sticking with Claudia so much, because I don't get how she fell so deeply in love with her in like, I don't know, a week, whatever it was supposed to be.
Been a lot, okay, it was a lot more than a week. They've been gone a lot. They just came back.
What do you mean
they've only been back like a couple days. They were gone for.
Oh yeah, remember they went on
right. You're right. They went away. I forgot they did.
They went away on like a trip, and they came back.
They've been gone for like a year. I think.
I remember a little bit better. Then that makes more sense. I was thinking that I forgot about that. But yeah, it's hard, and it's kind of like at least they would have, I guess, given her a chance. She didn't really do anything, but she's like, nope, she's going down with the ship.
Ark said it was months.
It was months.
I knew it was. Right. Yeah, I knew it was a while.
And saying Claudia had a good exposition. She did when she was allowed to talk.
She killed it.
Yeah, and Ark was saying about the death scene was really good too, which it was. And just like visually, the effect was even just really really good.
I mean, this is very similar to the book. In the book, they are locked in a courtyard, right? They're locked out in the courtyard for the sun to come up and burn them to death. It's very.
I gotta say, other than Louis being tossed in the coffin and them getting burnt by the sun, I mean, this is all original. This whole play thing doesn't happen in the book and everything. And I gotta say, I loved it. It's one of the few things that they've done so far different from the book. That is actually really hit it out of the park. I thought it was such a great idea, the way they did it.
And Ark's saying something I hadn't thought of, that she's totally right. That because Claudia is always upset about that she never comes first with Louis, so she finally found somebody.
Yeah. So I had read an interview with Sam Reed where he interprets this as Lestat did come there with the intention of getting revenge on Louis and Claudia, and then during the course of this sham trial, he begins to change his mind, and that there's a lot of like nuance there, and that Lestat maybe like by the end of it wasn't real. I mean, he does go off script, right? Like Santiago is getting irritated. Like every time like he goes off script, Santiago's a little like, you're going off script. And like it's not because he's so dedicated to the theater. It's because he wants that Santiago is scripting this to go a certain way, and it has to end with murder, right?
And that's why whenever Armand gets the audience to be like, no, don't kill him, he totally turns it around to make it worse. He gets his He still gets his ending either way.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about it, not that I didn't like, but I felt that they could have done better. I didn't like that last week's episode ends with revealing Lestat, and even the way they led up to it this week, I feel like we all knew it was coming, but I wish they had revealed Lestat in a different way. Like Santiago will like do this big build up and be like our star witness, and then introduce Lestat. For people that did, for whatever haven't read the books or just didn't see it coming or whatever the case is, be like, holy crap!
Yeah.
I think it would have been a better reveal.
Yeah.
But that's a minor gripe of my own.
Yeah.
But everything else I thought was great, and I got it, and I love the animations behind them and everything.
Oh yeah, you can't really see them in any of these pictures, but those were pretty cool. Those have been great throughout.
Oh, and that was the Armand actually pointed out that that's why Santiago was getting mad because Lestat kept going off script.
The animations weren't matching.
The animations weren't lining up with the story.
Yeah, and he was getting mad.
And yes, Lestat is very manipulative.
He is. I think that. He is manipulative, and Sam Reed also went on this interview to say that that he feels like Lestat maybe he doesn't regret what he said, but he kind of does come to regret it because he still Louis never going to forgive him for this. Never, Louis will never get over this, right? If you wanted
a reunion, maybe you shouldn't have done this.
Well, and Armand uses his mind control to get the audience to choose banishment. The title of the episode is I Could Not Prevent It. And Armand is saying, look, I could save Louis, but I couldn't save Claudia. Which, okay, I get it, but Armand kind of wanted Claudia, he hated Claudia and wanted Claudia out of the way, right? I guess I believe it. I'm not saying he could mind control everybody all the time. He's up against Lestat's a good mind control. There's a lot of mind controlling people in this room, right? A lot of mind control.
If he did it too early, they may have caught on and stopped him too.
Well, and Armand set it up. Armand is the one who called Lestat to come to town.
Yeah, he's the one who threw him under the bus. So
Armand, he's like, oh, I made a choice. And it was never really clear what last week's episode. He didn't say I made a choice and it was this.
Yeah, that's why I had theorized last week that it was that he could save Louis if he let Claudia die. But here it more seems like that choice is that he screwed him over.
Well, couldn't he have made a choice that said, hey, Santiago wants to kill you, you better get out of town?
The choice was that was basically the choice. Either the coven is going to take out, Armand has two choices here. Either let this happen or we're going to kill you too. Was basically the choice.
I guess, but
I'm not saying Armand made the right choice. I'm just saying that was the choice.
Why? Because Santiago was going to pursue them for the next 100 years to the ends of the earth to kill them? Or could they just leave and Santiago would be like, all right, let me write my next play. Right. I don't know. The choice, there were a lot of choices that could have been made, right? I don't really know what. This went down. This episode goes down as though Armand is also a victim. And
he's not, yeah. And I'm not sure. I was just gonna say, I'm not sure who she's talking about. Who would have saved Claudia? I'm not sure what she means by that. Sorry, that's why I put.
Maybe that Lestat could have saved. He regretted what he did. I think what maybe Ark is saying that Armand, because of his deep love for
he means Armand.
Claudia. Armand would have saved Claudia because
he loves her.
Because Louis loves Claudia.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I agree with you. I think he dislikes Claudia, but yeah, I agree with her. I think he probably would have saved both of them, all three of them, if he could have.
I think he could have, maybe. I think he made a choice to played some odds that didn't go in his favor. I think maybe he could have. Armand.
No.
Like, let's also remember that Armand narrates part of this episode also. This is narrated by Louis and by Armand recalling what happened. And it's an episode in which Louis and Lestat recall things differently, and it's being told by two unreliable people, right? Like, everything is so unreliable in all of this. And I just feel like this episode played out as though Armand was also a victim and powerless, and I don't really think he was.
No.
No, I don't think.
He proved he wasn't because he saved Louis.
Yeah,
No.
right? I mean, he kind of got what he wanted, except like,
and got to play the innocent victim.
yeah, except that now you have this very powerful and cunning and like vengeful creature who is like how do they get from that episode to Dubai 70 years later, right? And where is Lestat? I know because I read a bunch of books, but but like where do do they they just like broke up and never spoke again? You know, sometimes you yeah, like when you're like, so Louis is buried alive at the end of this episode, right? We know he gets out.
Clearly.
And we know he's not going to be like really too happy with his ex. And next week's the season finale. Is this renewed yet for another year?
Not yet.
I mean, surely will be.
Yeah.
Probably, but I don't know. But
I
yeah,
don't see how it doesn't get renewed. It's a huge hit for him.
Which I can't wait to see how if they change the name.
why?
Oh yeah.
Well, because next week is the end of this story.
Of this book.
Yeah.
Right. Next week's the end of this book, and there's like the next book has a different name. And it's right. So do they keep calling it that, or do they give it like a colon, like with the Vampire Lestat is the name of the next book? I don't know. But all this Daniel stuff is very different from the book also, right? So who knows, anyway, I thought it was great. I don't want to I guess I don't want to get too off track and speculate about next season. We got another whole episode to go. I thought it was great. I think this
definitely the best episode of the season.
I think this picture is basically
the best episode of the series.
You think it's the best one in the series? I think it might be also. It's a really good episode. I feel like this picture represents what Louis is going to feel when he wakes up out of this coffin that he's in. You think it's the best one in the series? Oh, I just got some echo of myself.
I was going to say, we lost you for a second there, kind of.
Oh. Sorry. My internet must have spaced
faded
out. Sorry about that. I faded out right when you said you think it's the best episode of the series, right?
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely.
Next week's going to be fun.
100%.
Oh, next week should be great. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right.
Probably get an answer to some of those questions.
We probably will.
Hopefully.
We probably will. So, all right. Great. Well, you guys get any more comments on that, or shall we keep moving along through our schedule tonight?
Good.
Okay. So this is going to
lead us to Acolyte.
This brings us to the Acolyte. Oh, this show has some problems.
Uh-oh.
I think. Do you think this show has some problems?
Let's hear the problems, Karen.
Terrible dialogue, and kind of like this episode was kind of like, did anything happen? Like, okay, so by the end of it, so I'd say what the biggest problem I have with this episode is May doing a 180 out of nowhere and being like, oh, like for every episode, she's like, oh, I'm like my master. I don't know. Is the master of Sith? We don't really know. May's like all dedicated to this revenge journey and being an acolyte of this mystery red saber person. And then all of a sudden she's like, you know what? I don't have to do this. I'm going to go find my sister and apologize. I was like, what? What just happened on this show? Like, to me, like,
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It was a problem for me. Did anybody else feel that maybe was a very abrupt about face that didn't make any sense?
Yeah, she's like, well, now that she's alive, that's what matters because I don't have to keep doing this anymore. No, yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all.
That part.
No,
and
because it was stupid.
I keep forgetting his name. What's the young Jedi?
Oh, the guy that's her best friend? The guy that's Osha's friend? That guy?
I don't know. I'd call them friends, but yeah.
Okay, they were Jedi in training together.
Well, that's kind of my point. I didn't realize they knew each other before this whole mission started.
Oh, you didn't?
Like,
yeah, they
until
said
he said the part about training together when she was a Padawan. Yord, thank you, Ark.
Yord,
yeah.
I keep forgetting his name every week. I don't know why. Maybe because he's not very interesting. I didn't even know they knew each other until he made that comment.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
This whole time he's been very. She's not a Jedi. She doesn't know what she's doing. Like, okay, you trained with her. She might not be a Jedi now, but you should know what she's capable of if you trained side by side with her. And it's like so that caught me off guard because like the way he is towards her doesn't make any sense if they train together. But yes, I agree.
Yeah.
May's shit was now. So you want to talk about something bad? I mean, I'm going to be really, 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 really mad at Artie
he's better on fire
and this show if he's right. So all through the episode, Artie kept saying her buddy there, the Asian guy. What's his name? I don't know anybody's name.
Saul.
Which tells
his name is no. His name is like queer. Starts with a Q.
Okay, the Q guy.
The guy, the henchman, the like acolyte, the like.
The one with
the henchman.
May.
Oh,
yeah,
him.
The one that May gets stuck in the trap.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so throughout the entire episode, Artie kept saying he's the master.
I think he's the master. Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, not the master. I was like, he's too stupid to be the master. And Artie's like, no, he's the master. Because this guy is trying so hard to keep saying, oh, the master this and the master that. And I'm like, he is, if he turns out to be the master and he's just, I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like it makes any sense. I feel like the master has to be somebody connected to the witches. And if it is him, I think that's bad writing. But then as the episode continues, Artie's like, oh, it absolutely is, because he's not hanging in the tree anymore. He went and killed.
I think he's the master.
He went and killed he went and killed Kalnaka before she even got there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, it better not be.
Look, we never seen the two of them together. Of course, we had never seen the master before, but it was very convenient that they go into the woods and someone manages to kill, the Wookiee Jedi, Karnaka, before who really could have done that? The only person we know who was around was this guy, the henchman. And it does seem like, I don't know. I feel like the way the Star Wars has been going with these Disney shows, that the obvious answer is probably the answer.
This is not the Occam Razor show.
Not.
Richard's asking if we think it's as bad as the net portrays it. I assume you mean
No.
like reviews that it's getting. I don't dislike the show, but
it is being review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes for a lot of reasons. I
will say this though: the Master is really powerful because he backed all those Jedi off without even trying.
He's very, very powerful. I had a nice picture of all of them with their sabers, and sometimes I have a photo and it won't upload into StreamYard because of the size or whatever. But yes, the Master is very powerful, and the Master has this awesome this is like the scariest Sith I've ever seen in Star Wars. I'm assuming he's a Sith, right? Part of the reason I'm assuming he's a Sith is because of all the Jedi keep saying there are no more Sith. Sith are not around, and the Jedi will continue to.
I said red lightsaber was Sith. That's what you told me last week.
Yes, but at this point in the Star Wars canon, the Sith have been died out for like 1,000 years. And
they've been died out. That's great grammar, Karen. They've been
all right. I'm sorry, but
sorry. This is funny the way you say
you say ain't like 10 times in an episode.
Listen, this is not the grammar show. This is Sci-Fi Vision. Come on.
But listen. So the Sith have died out, and in Star Wars, the Jedi will continue to deny that the Sith exist right up into the Phantom Menace, right? So, but it seems obvious that this is a Sith Lord here. But I thought this was one of the scariest like things I've seen in a Star Wars show. The helmet is awesome. It kind of looks like Venom, doesn't it? With all those like teeth kind of things at the bottom of it. It was really a really great helmet. Way better than Kylo Ren's helmet. And I thought it was a really
that's us saying
with this powerful. I thought that was great. I think I did have some problems with some other stuff in this. I have some problems with May's storyline. I had some pictures of them trekking through the forest here. I had some problems with how they killed that creature, because aren't the Jedi supposed to respect all forms of life and like do everything they can to not just like whip out and kill a creature that's only trying to protect its like cockroach babies on the trees? And they just kill that giant moth.
I think the point of this entire series is to show that Jedi aren't as wholesome as they claim to be.
I mean, I think they're kind of. We had this scene where I love this picture because it looks like they're in the TARDIS.
It totally does. You're right.
I mean, I agree with you, AJ. And to me, remember how much we loved the parts of Andor that were like the behind the scenes, the politics of the Empire. Yes. And I do like these scenes where this is a scene where one of these Jedi is like, do you think we should tell the council? And then what's her name is like, don't tell the council, they'll tell the Senate. And then, we'll be in a political problem. And I really liked how they were setting up the way that the Jedi became so secretive and so self-important and so unwilling to engage with politics and yet so political about the same time that they end up bringing about their own downfall, right? They kind of like, I mean, Order 66 is a terrible thing, Jamie, which is like a massacre of all Jedi, including all the students at the temple, all the little children, Padawans or whatever. And then the Phantom Menace and everything. But the Jedi the Jedi have a role to play in that, right, AJ? And I like that part. I would like to see more of that in this show and less like Osha being like, oh, I can feel May. I think there's a chance that there's good in you, Father. I can feel it kind of thing going on between May and Osha, right? Like, I think there's just weak storytelling on May and Osha's journey, and other stuff that could be beefed up.
Well, it's funny you bring up Osha because I forgot she was in this episode because she did nothing.
No, she did nothing.
Osha did nothing but walk around.
She walked around. She didn't really do anything. I mean, I guess they're setting up like a Luke and Vader type of confrontation between them. I think
I wouldn't honestly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this if May and Osha team up together against the Jedi, because it's going to turn out. I mean, I said it before. I don't think May starting that fire outside their bedroom door did not take down that temple. That somebody else started the bigger fire.
Well,
and none of those witches were burnt. They were all just dead, but nobody was burnt. So there's a lot more going on at that. Actually, maybe I did. That was the week I wasn't here, so I didn't say these things to you. But
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I think a conversation I was having with Artie.
That's all correct. and we didn't discuss the part where, like, okay, so Osha, May is 100% to blame for attempting to murder her sister.
Yes, absolutely.
By setting a fire, right? However, if the Jedi didn't just show up and be like, we're taking the kid, right? Like they're like the others. They show up and they're like, this kid has powers, we're taking her, right? And they do sort of like, I mean, they lured Osha a little bit away from her family, right?
Well, Osha wanted to go. Osha wasn't down with the witch stuff even before the Jedi.
Okay, but the Jedi were creepy and sketchy and like, look at the shiny lightsaber.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you like
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah. And maybe the Jedi shouldn't be going around scouring like the universe and taking. And maybe if the Jedi didn't say, "Oh, come with us," and you must sever all connections to anybody you ever loved because feelings make a Jedi weak. That whole kind of like Jedi code thing
that's always been
right. And there's the part where that one I don't know my Jedi names, and you know them better than I do, AJ, but the guy who basically committed suicide, not basically, the guy who drank the poison and killed himself over his role, like there's something missing there
that's what exactly.
Right?
There's definitely something missing.
Like May is holding them responsible on a level, and like Jamie and I talked about how May is not taking any responsibility for her role in this and is blaming it on the Jedi. But there is a little more there, probably. Like why are the Jedi? That part, like, I wouldn't mind if in the end, like May and Osha are kind of like their storyline is incidental to a way better story about the Jedi becoming corrupted, not corrupt like taking bribes, but like corrupted what they stood for, right? That's a better story. The May and Osha story is beginning to feel a little bit like every other like Star Wars, like
good versus evil.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Star Wars has that like two sides of the coin thing. Like there are always two. There's always a Jedi and a Sith, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, Arc-San.
Now it's a matter of which one's worse.
Yeah. Oh, May is now with the Jedi and Osha is with the Sith. So we'll see. Oh, that yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the old twin switcheroo thing, the masters can probably figure that out.
I don't know.
And
She's also saying about Soul keeping a secret, which is true. Soul knows something he isn't telling.
Yeah, that's why he was like, he's kind of like, oh, let me go and take Osha, let me go and get May, right? Like he definitely is keeping things from his Jedi bosses.
Yep.
I mean, I assume this ends with Osha like embracing her Jedi, but I don't want to say becoming a Jedi again. I kind of object to this part about like she used to be a Jedi, but she's not.
Isn't that kind of like once a Jedi, always a Jedi?
I mean, you could be like, I drop out of the order and get a normal job and won't wear a robe, but aren't you still a Jedi, right? Like, you're an expert Force user, and you could be like, I don't use the Force. So, at least,
let's put it this way. So, if you're, it's like she used to be a nun. Okay, she might not be part of the. she might have dropped out of the convent, but that doesn't mean she gives up her faith just because she's not part of the order anymore. So she, as a Jedi, she's not part of the Jedi Order anymore, but she's still Force sensitive. She can still use the Force.
Well, and she's a little more like, my understanding is that she's not a former Padawan. She's a former Jedi. She graduated from Padawan training and was a Jedi, right? Maybe not a true master, but she's not like, what's that show in Ahsoka Tano? Ahsoka's Padawan dropped out while being a Padawan and is not fully trained. And we saw, what's her name? Kira?
Same about, yeah.
And we saw her like struggle to resume her training, right? It does seem that the Force is a muscle that you have to exercise or you lose it a little bit, right? Like if you don't use the Force every day, you stop being able to use the Force, kind of, or you're not as good at it, kind of thing.
Like Art just said, she did feel the creatures, which is why she touched them in the first place and pissed off Mom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so she's still connected either way.
Yeah. So I don't know. To circle back, do either of you guys think it's as bad as it's being panned online? I
Nothing's
think
ever as bad as it's. Oh, all right. I shouldn't say nothing's ever as bad as it's being panned online. But you know what? We live in a world where it's not as bad as what's happening online. Does it have problems? Yeah. Could the script be a little tighter? Absolutely. But it's not nearly as bad as the review bombing it's getting online.
no, there
Because I
are
don't feel it is.
I mean, there are people who like their Star Wars a certain way, and they don't. I mean, these people didn't like Andor or Boba Fett or I mean, I do think Disney is getting Star Wars is getting a little too Marvel. Like, I think maybe there are too many shows, and maybe we should take a year off after this. Well, except for I mean, there's not going to be any more. There's no more Mandalorian until the movie in 26, right?
Yeah. Listen, I thought I was completely on board with what's the show called? Acolyte, because it's 100 years before. So I thought, and it's actually funny because that's part of the problem and part of the solution. So you had all these people, these diehard Star Wars fans saying, "Oh, nothing's original. Everything's always the same characters. We keep filling in the gaps here and there. It's like always the same people. Oh, we need something fresh and new. Here's the Acolyte, 100 years before anybody you know. Cool, awesome, great. Oh man, this kind of sucks. Like, I like seeing stories about people that I know and stuff. Like, I don't know who any of these people are. Like,
Yeah, they're always something to complain about.
You can't. You damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. With a lot of these complaints, you can't win either way. I say, enjoy the show for what it is, and judge it on that, not what That's why a lot of this online stuff, this review bombing, is. I don't pay any mind to any of it, because I remember back when She-Hulk came out, She-Hulk got review bombed and had the worst rating, one of the worst ratings ever, before the first episode premiered. So review bombing, in my mind, it doesn't mean shit. It's just a bunch of people that have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Let's move it along. We're going to run over time here. We have another episode.
7 shows. Of course, we're going to run over time.
Yeah, we have another episode of the Acolyte.
This isn't Blog Talk Radio. This is what is it? StreamYard.
So yes, to think about it.
There's no restrictions here.
Yeah, except for people getting sick of us.
Who could get sick of us?
I know.
We're fun.
Take a vote. Are you sick of us now? Okay.
All right.
So,
go ahead.
Have you seen it? Or Dr. Jamie, have you seen anything else?
No. Of Acolyte? No.
No, I meant shows.
Not that it's out yet. No, they're all stuff.
We have Lazarus and Dragon left.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen either, right?
Nope. Yeah, so I'm probably I've had screeners. I still haven't had a chance to catch up on Lazarus. Eventually I will. But the only thing I will mention is like I said, if you have any questions for John Fawcett for Orphan Black, or if you have any ARC questions, because I have ARC tomorrow morning too. And then you have
the Serpent Queen.
Serpent Queen. And then Thursday's me. There's a lot of stuff going on this week, especially tomorrow. So,
all right.
Yeah. But anyway, lots of good stuff coming up. Oh, and I did post 2 of the interviews for My Lady Jane. If people want to check them out, they are up. Okay. We can go 5 hours. We can go 5 hours. I don't think ARC saying we can go 5 hours on here. I don't think anybody wants to listen to us talk for 5 hours. I think I'll put
what we're talking about.
If we're talking for 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you for 5 hours.
Yeah, no. We're almost done.
Listen,
2 hours.
hey,
that's good enough.
I've witnessed 5-hour text messages between you two, so I don't want to hear it.
Well, text message isn't solid chat. Yeah. Well.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay, guys. Well, have fun. I will eventually watch this. Whether I will watch it before the season gets over.
I was just gonna say.
But I do want to see it. I don't have time to sit down and watch that many episodes. I know, but it's a lot of episodes.
And then you'll understand why we say George is the worst every week.
I don't know if the main character's the worst though, but you love the show. That's hilarious to me.
There's lots of good supporting characters.
All right.
All right.
Well, I will talk to you guys soon.
All right. We'll see you next week, Janie.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. So before we talk about this week's episode, since I wasn't here last week, there is one thing I got to say. I love it when pop culture comes into something, but as soon as the first time that pod went racing down the track there, the first thing I said was, I was like, does this baby get up to 88 miles an hour? And then later in the episode, they asked that. I was like, I said it first.
Yeah. I had a nice picture of it, and now I can't find the picture of it. But last week was a pretty good episode, and I didn't really get to talk to. I mean, Jamie's not watching it, so I didn't really get to talk about it. I kind of love the way they have like flipped the time travel script. Like it wasn't really time travel last season, right? Like the anomaly, like it seems like time travel, but it's not. It's a reset of the timeline, and yet now they've introduced actual time travel, which I think is pretty cool, and I enjoy the way that's going. I have AJ. You weren't here last week. There was not much with George and Sarah this week, but I really like how that relationship has evolved or devolved since George gave her the shot and brought her in, right? Last week's episode had that whole sequence where Sarah realizes that like every time she went to that party, she wound up with that other boyfriend. Only the one time did she end up with George. And that's the one that he keeps resetting. Right. And like, I just kind of really, I mean, I love where that's going. I just love that everything George does is the worst. And like, he just cannot stop meddling. Also last week's episode, I don't want to belabor it, but they go, AJ, if you went to a secret time travel facility that accidentally caused a second black hole to be made and might destroy the whole universe, right? Would you just start flipping random switches? Like George just starts flipping switches in the time travel office. Like, what the heck was that? Oh, AJ's gone. We lost AJ. I'm here rambling and chit-chattering, and AJ is not in the room. So I'm just gonna keep talking. Here he is. He's coming back. AJ, were you listening? I've been talking and talking to you, and you were just gone, and I didn't even notice.
Yeah, my internet wonked out for a second. Sorry.
Wow. Well, I was rambling on about how much I love the George and Sarah dynamic. And then I was ranting about how George went to the secret time travel, black hole making, universe destroying office and started flipping switches randomly.
Yeah, he's an idiot. And then he says, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not my fault. It's never George's fault. Like, it's always George's fault, but George always says nothing is George's fault, right?
And the funny thing about George is he keeps running around and doing stuff that actually helps. But he's always doing it on his own.
I know. And then in the end, it kind of makes things like he solves a clue and then he doesn't tell anyone. And then like things get like, I get why he's not telling what he thinks he knows about Wes. Right. But it's George, so he could be totally wrong. I mean, I don't really think he is on this one, right? And he did blab it to Sarah in this week's episode. So TNT has not made any. I can't find any season 2 photos available on the TNT site, so I'm like grabbing things here and there to kind of illustrate our discussion. I don't have anything good about Janet and Rebrov's little girl is named Becky, and grown-up Becky saves George on the train. And that whole part of the storyline is we get the this week is the sort of the flashbacks to their handler, this guy Bryson, and I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this conversation because this show's like a little mind-blowing-y.
It's funny, before they figure out how to get time travel to work again, when Bryson, is so pissed at George when he's got the gun on him and he's going to shoot him, and then Becky saves him. I thought it was so obvious that at the very least George was going to go back in time, because how else would he know Bryson? So I was like, okay, they're totally foreshadowing that George goes back. Turning the entire plane into a time machine was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I don't trust Wes. I said that all last season. I feel like, everybody's mad at George all the time, and George is the worst. But I kept saying, you know what? Let the world end. Screw it. Stop saving it. Maybe we don't deserve to be saved. But maybe now that they're all back there except for Wes, I'm wondering if Wes isn't telling them anything because they meet up with Wes when they go back in time, which is why she couldn't say anything to them in the first place.
Right.
I still don't trust her.
No, I don't trust her either. And I don't I wonder how many times we're going to see this loop. So now everyone's going to go back in time. And the whole team is on the plane, right? And they're going to go back, and inevitably George is going to run into himself because it's George, right? I think Becky is wrong. I don't think George left the note saying, take this gun and save George. I think it probably was, I don't know who it is, but I think it was probably someone else. I think that seems like an obvious mistake that they're going to make, right? But everyone's gone back. They're probably going to run into themselves. That can't be good. And yet this is not a show. I mean, this show is all about, as Soul Live says in the chat, the show's all about the butterfly effect, right? But we don't seem to have rules about talking to yourself in the past, or nobody has said anything about it, right?
Not yet.
I mean, and I've seen some promo, there has been a promo trailer with multiple Georges in it. I think multiple of everybody in it in the season trailer.
You know what I love about it is I was so engulfed in everything that was happening in the now. I hadn't even thought about the fact that Becky was a little girl, and they only went back to 2012, so she'd be around now. You know what I mean? I hadn't even thought about that.
They went back before she was born, and because she had no history didn't exist in 2012, she couldn't she got put in foster care as this mystery child, right? And did not really have a great upbringing after that night.
Considering her mom was killed.
Yeah.
Or she thinks her mom's dead.
She thinks her mom is dead.
Which brings me to another one of my questions about Ross. Do we there's a part of me that wonders if he's not still alive in the present.
If Ross is still alive.
Archie's convinced that he's dead, but I don't know. I feel like they're leading us, they're dropping little hints that he's still alive in the present. I mean, obviously we're going to see him in the past.
I think so too. I mean, I think the conversation that Archie and Zhang have talking about him seems to maybe foreshadow that he might be back, right? I mean, definitely he'd be in the past, and that might be hard for Archie to see him in the past if they do.
Which would make things interesting for her and Zhang. Which, by the way, they have great chemistry together, though.
They're great together, yeah. I don't have many shots.
I love after the reset, and after the first reset, they have sex, and then there's the reset, and she just shows up this time instead of calling, and she knocks on the door, and Archie just opens the door and smiles, and it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen here. they're gonna have sex again before they go to the.
They have this like Samson knows where the serum is, and they have to go to Australia to get the serum so they can fly to the past. But they take time to do that again. Yeah. I do like them together a lot. I like these two together also, right? So they're not a couple, but
they're hilarious.
And George says to Shiv in this episode, "Oh, who would think that we would become mates?" And Shiv's like, "We're not mates. You shot me. You killed me. You shot me." Right? And twice, right? And twice, yeah. And George seems to think like, "Oh, they're going to undo it all and it'll be fine." Like George has this idea that if you like reset, he forgets that no one forgets it, right? Like Shiv had to be shot like every time there's a reset, he gets shot again and has to relive it again. And he remembers it every time. Like he remembers now being shot like 50 or 100 times or something, right?
Yeah.
George just doesn't get it at all.
No. And and I wasn't here last week, but when Sarah's having that conversation with George, and I thought that was great because until they showed us, Sarah's past during the resets, I hadn't ever considered the fact that she met somebody other than George. She only met, which actually leads me to another theory. She only met George on the last time when they got it right. So it was the last reset is the time she met George. Prior to that, she met the other guy whose name was, I can't remember his name. But when she's telling George about this, he's like, what the heck was the guy's name? Do you remember?
I want to say it was like Kieran or Colin or something like that, but I forget.
Yeah, something like that. And he's like, Colin's a stupid name. And she's like, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, George. Like, you're so, I was like, you in fucking first grade? My God.
Well, and George has been under the impression that, like, I mean, that this was the right thing, but really, like, the reset was for the wrong thing. Like, she, like, every other time, Sarah winds up with this other guy, and now she remembers losing this love, and she doesn't really have feelings for George. And like,
that's
she doesn't.
where I wonder, but that's where I wonder now if, so, Sarah dying was a terrible thing and created George to redo everything, even though his thing didn't work. But I'm wondering if, we have all these resets before they get it right, but does that reset, and we see all these things with, with Becky, Becky now but with Red Rob and Janet and everything and how painful all that was and everything. But it makes me wonder, is this a story where the time they get it right, it isn't just that they stopped the world catastrophe, it's that all the other things that were supposed to be that way lined up also. So was Sarah and George supposed to be together? Was she actually supposed to die also?
So I feel...
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but I feel like there's no supposed to be. And I'm really thinking of a scene from Dark Matter this week where Charlie, like, when they go to visit the campus and Jason is like reminiscing a little bit about how he went to this party and he met Daniela. Charlie says, "What if you didn't go?" "Oh, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." And Charlie gets kind of like, he reacts strangely emotionally, but Charlie says, "No, it's not meant to be. Have you ever thought about how your life is just based on like a bunch of random incidents that happened and random decisions that you made, and that you think it, like, Charlie, he doesn't say these exact words, but I really feel that here with George, like, he thinks it's meant to be, and like, this is how the timeline should be, and let's reset it and get it back." But at Charlie and Dark Matter is like, no, it's just a random thing that happened, right? Yeah. And like, every reset, random things happen, that he meets her, he doesn't meet her, right?
Right. How can you regret something that you don't know happened if it didn't happen?
I mean, this idea, and this idea that they're meant to be, and Sarah really busted that last week when she's like, no, it seems like actually the other guy was meant to be.
Right. I do like the fact that her current husband she can't stand to be with.
I know. She can't stand him. She doesn't like George.
I love that. She's like, the guy that she went to the party to be with is who she's with now, and she can't stand him.
I know, because she met him differently, right? She meets him after the George breakup in this set in this loop of resets. She
Yes.
leaves George because he's boring. She meets this guy busking on
Well,
the
she
street.
didn't meet him. She already knew him, but she went there to hook up with him, and that
yeah.
didn't happen. And she
Yeah.
gets with him after the breakup with George.
After the breakup with George, yeah. I mean, really, she broke up with George because he's boring. But now that Sarah has become aware of the time loops, like, and you can see how truly selfish. She doesn't even know everything that George has done, but she knows a lot of what he's done.
She knows enough.
His utter selfishness is on display. Like, of course you're not gonna, right? I mean, really, it's no. I don't care what George did. It is not a surprise at all that Bryson wants to kill him, right? And Bryson's like, George's like, what did I do? And Bryson says, it's not what you did, it's what you're going to do. But I think it's what 2024 George does when he gets back to 2012.
Right.
Not like it's not like unaware 2012 George is going to do something. He's purposely after the George from 24, who's going to do something boneheaded when he gets back to 2012, right? Like try to, I don't know what he's going to do. Something terrible. Bryson was set up. He's their handler and is kind of the bad guy. And yet in those flashback scenes, it does seem like he became friendly with Janet and Becky, right? They were all sitting around like playing Uno and laughing it up or whatever. And he I think he cares about them, and something I think maybe whatever happened that night was caused by George from 24.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Guess we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out this week.
Maybe we'll find out this week. There's only, I don't know how many episodes are left. This was only episode 3, I think, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so there's quite a few to go before we get to the end of it. So, all right. So we got one more thing on our schedule tonight. All Must Choose. House of the Dragon. This episode, I mean, we know what this show is about, but I feel, AJ, maybe you agree that this episode is really showing how, like, the Targaryens destroyed themselves.
Well,
I haven't read the book. I haven't read the book, but like I've read all the Game of Thrones books, and like the Targaryens like ate themselves alive, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because we were just talking about Star Wars and the Sith and everything, and it's just that age old. Most powers they kill each other. They kill from within. It's never any outside source that takes them out. They always destroy from within because everybody wants to be in power.
Mm-hmm. And everyone was this was also the most like Game of Thronesy episode that we've gotten so far, I think, in terms of everybody really like moving, like everybody jockeying for power, not just like to sit the Iron Throne, but people who want other kinds of power within that, right? Like, for example, well, okay, I'm not sure if I would say Kristen Cole is...
He's the worst.
He's the worst. I mean, he actually maybe is not making power. He's not motivated by a lust for power, I think, the way other people are. He's motivated by a lust for Rhaenyra, really, I think, is what really has set him in motion, right? Like, yeah, he's he's like sleeping with Alicent, but he's like spite sleeping with her, right? Because Rhaenyra is the one
way to put it,
right? He really wanted Rhaenyra, and when like he's this guy that he calls Rhaenyra, like he thinks Rhaenyra, like, okay, he like calls Rhaenyra a slut for sleeping with him, but Alicent is sleeping with him, right? Like, he's a very conflicted and messed up person.
Ark says Cole's only out for himself and wants to cast his guilt on other people, which, yep, he definitely did that in this episode.
Yep, guilt is his big motivator, right? Like he had all the guilt for sleeping with Rhaenyra, but he really was into Rhaenyra, and then that was over. And then he's like that typical guy that like when the girl breaks up with you, she's a total bitch. But then like now he's sleeping with Allison, and he doesn't like he's very guilty about that. He feels very guilty because he want like so remember when we met him, Kristen Cole comes from nothing. He wasn't like born a noble and he got elevated and I feel like he has these notions about honor and purity and respectability and things like that. And then he actually is like rolling around in bed with all these princesses and queens all the right. And he's like and then it comes back to bite him because the baby is killed while these two are in bed. And they're feeling guilty about like, oh, if only I was. I mean, so Allison, she feels guilty that maybe if Cole had been on duty, the baby could have been saved, right? I mean, there's all that guilt going on.
I mean, there's so much blame to throw around. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Let's start with Daemon. I mean, Jesus.
Oh my God. Yeah. Daemon is just, I love that scene with him and Rhaenyra where she's like, I can't trust you. And what you think, Rhaenyra? I mean, come on. Like, you've known this man.
Yeah. Remember, this is your uncle that groomed you.
Yeah. Yeah. But so
which was common cause with Targaryens, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. He actually is. Daemon is not unlike his nephew Aegon the King in that, like, they both act without thinking, right? Like Daemon acted without thinking. He wanted to like, Rhaenyra says, "I want Rhaenyra did say, "I want Aegon and Aemond," and she did want Aemond killed. Right. And then Daemon like acts without speaking to her. The whole thing goes to shit, and then he's not even really sorry. He's like, "Oh, was this a mistake?" But he's not even really sorry, right?
Right.
I mean, Rhaenyra also is a little like messed up because she says she wanted Aemond, and then instead, the baby whose name is I forget his name, whatever, Jaehaerys, is killed. And Rhaenyra's like, oh, I would never do that. I, having just lost a child, why would I do that to Helena and kill a child? That's horrible. But, like, Aemond is somebody's child. He's Alicent's child, right? Like, she would be taking a mother's child from her anyway. I think to her it makes a difference to Rhaenyra because she hates Alicent and, like, Helena hasn't done anything to her. Helena's a very gentle kind of a soul, right? I mean, Rhaenyra's a little bit hypocritical. She's correct in being mad at Daemon because he is a bad actor who can't be trusted. But she's being a little hypocritical, don't you think?
I don't know about hypocritical, but I mean, she wanted the person responsible for killing her son, whereas Daemon just kind of screwed the pooch and killed an innocent child.
Yeah.
Who had done nothing wrong.
Yeah, a baby who'd done nothing. And he is not, he also is like wrong guy. He's not unlike Aegon also in like people who fail to consider the consequences of their actions, right? Like
I gotta say, Aegon though, you did feel for him in that in that one scene when he's very distraught.
He really loved his son, and he's really in a lot of pain.
I gotta say, the way they're portraying Aegon, he's very aloof as king. Clearly has no idea what he's doing. And Hightower was kind of his, which is the job of the hand to kind of steer the king.
Yeah.
But I love the scene when he's he's seeing all the people, and he's like, oh, all right, give him his sheep back. And Hightower's like, no. We can't give him his sheep back because everybody wants our sheep back, or goats, or whatever the hell they were.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, you realize the way they're portraying him, you realize he's not terrible. He's just in a terrible position, you know, that started between his mother and his sister.
Well, and he's probably like, he's very young, right? Like he's probably like 17, right?
Yeah.
16. He's a terrible king. He was a terrible choice. I did enjoy it. So this week, when, you know, after all this mess, Aemon makes another mistake and he fires Hightower as the hand. Now, I mean, Hightower's kind of a bad dude,
Well,
right?
he's coerced. He's coerced into that, which you see coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And then gave it to Cole,
and then
which I did not see coming.
I didn't see that coming. But I liked that part of the scene where Aemon says, "My father made me the heir," and Hightower's like, "Oh, that's what you think happened?" Or he said, "My father put me on the throne," or something like that. And Aemon says, "Oh, you really believe that, don't you? That's how it happened?"
Yeah.
Because he knows that it was because Alicent heard the dream.
Yeah.
Incorrectly. But yeah, and then he gets to Kristen Cole, and I don't have a shot, but the look on Cole's face when he was named the hand.
That was hilarious.
He does not want to be the hand. He has no qualifications to be the hand.
It's gonna be short lived because, well, I mean, I know who's gonna end up the hand, so I guess.
Yeah.
But it's pretty. I think just even with me knowing who it's gonna be, it's pretty obvious that it's the way he's been manipulated by
Yeah.
What the hell's his name? The guy with the cane.
Lord Lyman. Yeah,
that guy.
Yeah, the guy who had his both brothers killed, so his brother and his father killed at Harrenhal, so he could, like, you know. I mean, I think Aegon would be a terrible king, also, but he's a little bit.
Aemon would be awful.
He'd be awful because he's cruel and mean and sort of like mentally messed up. But he did say, like, "Oh, I do regret what happened with my cousin. I lost my temper. It got out of hand." Like, he is the only of all the men on this show. He's the first one to show like the slightest iota of recognition that he caused something bad to happen. Right? Like he is aware that he set it all in motion by not controlling his dragon. And this eye for an eye baloney, right? Okay, Hightower, I should exclude him. He's not a guy who he's got some wisdom there, but every blonde man in this show is a person who acts without thinking, acts out of emotion, and it is the women on the show who really would be much better queens. All of them, even Alicent, right? Who, I mean, we're set up to, like, she's the head of Team Green, and she's Rhaenyra's frenemy and rival or whatever, and we don't like her, and yet Alicent was put into this position really by her father, sort of, pushing her into this.
Yeah, he totally pimped out his daughter.
Yeah. He did, so that he could have power. And I mean, that's what happens in Game of Thrones. A woman has nothing except like who she marries, right? But Alicent is not really. I mean, I guess she could have stood up and been like, "No, Daddy, Rhaenyra's my best friend," or.
Yeah, that was never going to happen.
That was never going to happen.
Not in this world.
She's not really. I mean, yeah. So I also liked all of this part too, where, and I'm gonna, please tell me the name of this character.
The White Worm.
The White Worm. She has a name, but she's the White Worm. Where she and Rhaenyra. I mean, I like her character. I like the way she's like, "Look, I don't have I got nothing, and I got to make money and live somehow. And I trade in information," and she's open about it. She doesn't really lie. And she and Rhaenyra so I would like to see her become a closer advisor to Rhaenyra, maybe, and maybe she will, because you don't see it happen on screen, but she saved Rhaenyra's life, right? Like
Yeah.
she knew, where she knew about the twins. She figured it out, and she alerted the house.
Yeah, she told Eric, "Hey, your brother's here."
Yeah.
We like you said, we're not gonna. We'll see that next week.
Yeah. I mean,
when
she
we
was going
find
to be
out.
banished, and I think she's not. I mean, Rhaenyra let her go out of prison.
We're gonna see her next week, and Rhaenyra is gonna be like, "Why are you still here?" And she's like, "Well, I noticed that there was 2 Erics on the island."
Yeah. Yeah. That was a terrible plan that Sir Kristen had. It was doomed to fail, obviously. Everyone knew it was doomed. I think
I think Kristen knew it was doomed too, but he laid the blame at his feet for, he had to make himself look good when he went into the mess hall and was screaming at everybody.
Yeah. And he pushed this plan. It's a terrible, I don't really know what that was all about. Was that he's feeling so impotent to do anything about the situation, to help Allison in any way, and he is feeling so guilty about not being on duty when Jaehaerys was killed, that he wants some, or is he?
I feel it was twofold. The way I see it, it's twofold.
Okay.
It's kind of a win-win for Kristen Cole, because if he succeeds, well, there you go. I mean, I just took out your enemy in one fell swoop,
Yeah.
So there's that side of it. If he fails, it's at least I tried, and again, it's because of the guilt he feels for not being not being posted outside because he's banging the Queen Regent.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I feel a little bit like, okay, you're gonna get glory, you're making Eric do it, right? I think he also I mean, he's got a real inferiority complex for people like Eric and Eric, who were born more to I don't know, are those guys born into a family, or are they also jumped up knights? I don't know.
I don't know what their family name is, honestly, so I'm not sure.
I can't remember either. By the way, these 2 guys are brothers and I guess twins in real life.
Eric seems to agree with me.
That's I mean, I think so. Yeah. And I think he also just wanted to do something, and I think he's kind of dumb, right? And he wanted to be seen, and and also I think he was just angry, and he wanted someone to yell at, and the next thing you know, this is coming out of his mouth because he's another man who doesn't think, right? A woman has to be 10 times smarter than a man in the Game of Thrones world. And I think also Kristen was just he was just yelling, and it just next thing you know, he's got this stupid plan coming. He thought of it on the spot, right? He's like, "Oh, your cloak is dirty. Oh, I'm pissed. Oh, why don't you go and kill her? What? Oh yeah, you got a twin. Go do it, right?"
I mean, it's actually, I mean, laid out better. It's not a bad plan.
No, I mean, maybe you should try to send some more support with the guy,
and not for nothing. Actually, if the White Worm doesn't see him, Eric doesn't show up in time to save Rhaenyra. I mean, Rhaenyra can maybe fight him off herself, but
yeah, she didn't look like she. I mean, we saw many scenes of her training to fight as a child, and yet she didn't seem to show any real talent in those moments in that room, right?
Well, no, I mean, she's kind of caught off guard.
Yeah, she was in bed. I thought so. The maid had gone to get the milk of the poppy. To put her to sleep. I wondered if she was gonna be asleep when it happened. He comes in before she can be put to take the drug, which is maybe he should have waited a minute. But I think it was kind of obvious that one brother was going to have to kill the other, and that they would both wind up dead. It really was kind of tragic, right? Eric has to kill Eric, and then he kills himself. It's a tremendous waste. And I guess sort of symbolic of the family, like the larger story of the Targaryen family destroying themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm worried about the daughter Bella that Rhaenyra has said, take your dragon and go like hang around King's Landing and see what's gone over there. I need a spy. That seems to be like putting your child in danger. Daemon has taken off. I think Rhaenyra asked him to go to the High Towers, right, to Highgarden, and see if you can if the Tyrells can be brought to her side. And Allison or Otto, somebody had the same thought. That I think it was Allison was like, no, we got to get we got to get to Highgarden and get the Tyrells on our side also. That was interesting to me because that's a huge part of Game of Thrones also, right? Like the Tyrells have the biggest lands and the biggest money, and they're like the breadbasket of
I mean, it's all the same families. I mean, the Starks and the Lannisters and the Tyrells and the Hightower.
But like, it's interesting how like 100 years later, the Tyrells are still the clutch.
Aaron's and
yeah. So anyway, I guess this was a little bit of a setup-y kind of episode, like moving pieces on the board, definitely. Right? But Rhaenyra is really like, I mean, I agree with Rhaenyra that like Daemon has now eroded her position. Like Otto is cold and calculating to stage that funeral, but he was right. It really did get sympathy on their side. And now Rhaenyra's position is like, were they calling Rhaenyra the cruel for killing a baby?
Yeah.
But that's okay because the boy king will do something stupid very soon. He's like, I want a war. So I guess we'll see where that goes next week also, huh? I just ran out of things to say about it all of a sudden.
I like what Art just said. It's because she was Daemon's daughter, not her son, because she couldn't lose another child so soon.
Good point. Bella is Daemon's child by his first wife.
Yes.
Who was the daughter of the sea snake, right? Her name was Velaron. I forget her name. But yeah, Bella's his daughter by his other wife. You're right. That is not Rhaenyra's child. I mean, not her blood child. She maybe loves that stepchild as her own. I don't know. But that's a really good point, Ark. She did not send any of her children. She's keeping her children quite close.
Yeah, and there's almost every sentence of the show has foreshadowing. I mean,
yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I mean, definitely like more people's children are going to die for sure. There was probably actually I didn't see what was the significance. So after they're having the funeral, the baby's dead, and Aegon comes into the room where they had been sitting earlier, and he picks up a coin off the floor, off the couch. I'm not really sure I caught the significance of him finding a coin.
It was, yeah. It's how he knows Daemon was there.
Oh,
maybe not Daemon specifically, but that Rhaenyra's people were there.
That coin came from Dragonstone.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of where the hell they are.
Oh, okay. Maybe they use different money out there or something. I said that our there would be another mistake made. The throne is going to make another mistake. It already happened. He ordered all of the rat catchers killed and hung out to be like on display in the
Yeah.
And Otto's like, "Oh, you freaking idiot! We had all this moral high ground, and then you went and murdered." And he's like, "They're just rat catchers." And Otto's like, "Yeah, they're people's brothers and sons and fathers and whatever." And now everybody is going to think that you are just as much of a jerk. And that's when he gets fired and replaced with Kristen Cole. That should be pretty good. Hilarity will come from that choice of a hand. He's the worst hand ever. You know who he needs to be? I mean, if you're not going to have Otto, his hand really, I mean, he's never going to make his mother his hand, but, you know, I could see him maybe making his brother at some point his hand. I don't know. I feel like this show already, that there's so much about Damon, you know, and he argues with Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra's like, "You only married me because like you felt cheated out of your birthright, and like do you accept me as your queen? This is so much about you wanting what you want." And I feel like this is another generation of brothers, right? Who like the smarter one, not the smarter one, the ambitious one doesn't get to sit the throne, and these two brothers will always be at each other's throats, probably.
Well, I mean, to be fair, not that I think Daemon would make a good king, but Daemon was right when he said to Rhaenyra that the only reason Viserys named her his successor was to keep Daemon off the throne. It was absolutely one of the reasons he did it.
I mean, he really believed Daemon would be a bad king. I mean, or you know, as.
But he also believed that Rhaenyra. But he also believed that Rhaenyra would be the queen.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Damon's kind of not wrong that she only got the job because he was never going to name his brother. Yeah. So I guess we're going to watch like these. I mean, this is like, I mean, fast forward 1,000 years and you just moved to Montecito and write a nasty book about your brother. All
right.
All right.
In other stories of Westeros news, I don't know if you've seen, but I'm very excited. The Night of Seven Kingdoms is starting production soon, which is what they're calling The Adventures of Dunk and Egg for TV.
Oh yeah. There's like a trailer out, right? Or a.
I think there's a sneak peek because I don't think there's a trailer yet.
Yeah. I didn't watch it. I saw that it was out, but I didn't watch it. I don't really know.
I can't. I love the Dunk and Egg books.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you're psyched about that. So
and the great thing about those stories is, like, there's a close enough connection between House of Dragon and Game of Thrones. Like, you don't have to see one to see the other, but there's a lot of references between the two about each other. Whereas with Dunk and Egg, it's just fun.
Yeah.
And there are things that connect. I mean, Egg is actually Aegon, who is, if I remember correctly, and Ark will probably correct me if I'm wrong, the Mad King's father, if I remember correctly.
Oh, the father of Mad King Aerys.
Yeah.
Aerys, right? Aerys was the Mad King? Or was he another
Mad
Aegon? Another Aegon was the Mad King, right?
Yeah. So.
It's like Aegon the Third, I think, or somebody like that. Yeah. It's Aerys. No, it's Aerys. It's Aerys.
It is Aerys? Okay.
It's Aerys the Second. Yeah, it's the Mad King. And he was Daenerys' father.
Yep.
That's why her name is Daenerys, because he's Aerys. So yeah, well, that's a ways from coming out, but that should be good.
Yeah, can't wait for that. And I'm hearing that 10,000 ships is back on track, which had been said to be canceled, but now it's back on track, which is about Queen Nymeria and joining with Dorne.
Oh, that should be good.
That's another one I really like a lot.
Well, it helps get these things back on track when they hit a home run and get like is House of the Dragon a perfect show? No, but it's a hit for HBO, and it does help get these other things moving.
So, well, a lot of it fell apart during the writer's strike.
Yeah. Well,
now they're like, okay, maybe we will give this stuff a chance.
Okay, let's just remember that all these shows are the reason we're not getting another book out of George R.R. Martin.
Has nothing to do with it. I've decided he just stopped writing in general. Like, he isn't even like really involved with any of them.
Yeah.
He's listed as an executive producer, but he has no real anything. And it's actually really funny because have you seen lately how he's been bashing all these adaptations?
Yeah. Yeah, adaptations of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. What did he say? He said 80% of the. He said, what did he say? 80% of the time they ruin the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he talked about like when there's a book or a movie that's really good, and somebody decides to remake it and put their own stamp on it, and
right, which is what happens with them.
And he's like, why do you have to put your own stamp on? Like, sometimes that's warranted, but a lot of times it was good, and like there isn't another stamp on it. I mean, he specifically referenced like Tolkien, right? Like, you're gonna put a new stamp on Tolkien? What? So anyhow, boy, that was a big show we had tonight.
Yes, it was.
Doctor Who will drop off next week, and we will buy a little time back in our show. We have one less show to cover. We got one dropping off, but Echoes has joined, so we'll still be pretty full for the next.
Well, we talked about Echoes tonight, so it's
yeah, we'll still be pretty full.
We'll have 6 next week.
Yep. So, all right.
But then pretty soon we'll be back up to 7, I think.
Yep.
Or maybe something else will drop off. Well, because next week, what you call it's going to drop off next week. After next week, Dark Matter.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go jump, and I got to watch a few episodes of Serpent Queen tonight so I can interview the executive producer tomorrow to cover for Jamie.
You have fun with that. And our next 2 shows in 25 and 28 days is Snowpiercer and The Ark.
Yeah, I can't wait for both of them to come back.
I really can't wait for Snowpiercer. It's been so long.
I am too. I'm ready to see that final season and get that. You know what? Soul's in the chat. Let me just. Superman is filming now in Cleveland. Is that a series or another movie? I'm not.
It's the new movie.
I don't follow DC. It's the new movie. Hopefully they'll get a good one because the last couple haven't been good. So.
All right.
On that note, good night.
Good night, everyone.
Art. Good night, Saul. Good night,
all. Thank you for joining us in the chat.
Yep. Thanks to everyone who's watching us. Almost everyone is on X.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is the biggest show I've seen.
Biggest live people coming through. Yeah. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a good week. Meet us here same time next week.
Yep.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.